emotional moment came after all the competition was done in figure skating, when Paul Wylie and Nancy Kerrigan teamed up and danced on ice to a song from Miss Saigon. They are here tonight to share their memories of a silver for Wylie and a bronze for Nancy Kerrigan. In a stirring performance, you really brought it all together. If you could just open up your medals for a moment. And, Nancy, when you look at your bronze medal, what do you think of? Just look at it for a moment and tell me what you think it means.
I don't know. It's probably just all the hard work that's gone into this, and for me and for my family and my coaches. And
since you were 6?
Yeah, 16 years.
Paul, how about you? When you look into it, what do you see?
Well, I think I see just a great 3 weeks and a great performance in the short and the long program with the odds completely off me. And I think I'm just really proud to, have stood up there for my country and be in that position. It's great.
11 times Paul Wylie tried at the U.S. Nationals to win it all, and 11 times he just missed. That was a big day in Albertville for him and for Nancy Kerrigan, too. This is a special edition saluting the Olympic performances of 2 fine Americans on Coors Sports Forum. We'll get started in just a moment. But let's begin at the beginning in Massachusetts and out in Colorado with you, Paul. The two of you danced together on ice so well. I assume that there's a very strong relationship between the two of you. I know you won your medals separately, but I mean, I started with the dual performance. Tell me about the relationship between the two of you, Nancy.
Well, I've been training with Paul for the last 8 years, and for 7 of those years we've had the same trainers, Mary and Evie Scottvold, and training together every single day and seeing each other, week after week. We've become very good friends.
Paul, wasn't it Evie who said that the reason that you didn't achieve greatness earlier in your career was that you needed a small lobotomy and that you thought too much? Did you get a small lobotomy somewhere along the way?
Well, I didn't get a small lobotomy, but I did learn how to control, myself and learn more about who I was as a person, as an athlete. I think I'm much more internally motivated than other athletes, and I spent a lot of years going out there trying to fashion myself after the Christopher Bowmans and the Kurt Brownings of the world, who see an audience that's roaring for them and start trying to feed off of it. And for me, it was much more trying to listen to my body and trying to sort of separate out the important things and focus on them.
You've been the just miss guy for so many years. Did you really get tired of hearing it to the point where you thought, I've just got to get out of here?
No.
Or did it get to the point where you said, I've got to change the way I approach this?
Well, I think it was both. I mean, I went through 3 years, basically, of saying, I really think I want to get out of this. And I was a student at the time, and I wanted to move on because of school. But it wasn't really until people started giving me suggestions and helping me with the nerves that I was able to, and it's not just the nerves, but it's also, the whole preparation and the way you go about the competition. And it wasn't until I started to deal with that I was able to sort of come up with the performances that I needed in order to tell those people, exactly what kind of a skater I am.
Nancy, when I watched your performance, you're 5 years younger than Paul, he's 27. You had the one slip, and then at the end, you seemed to be so exhausted that you almost couldn't hold the final pose. How were you able to deal with the pressure of that night when Paul, maybe a few years ago, had a difficult time dealing with it? What is it about you at a younger age?
I don't know. When I was out there, I just was hoping for the best performance I could put out, and I didn't, so I think I may go on, and, well, I have the World Championships in 3 weeks to kind of look forward to and hope for a better performance.
Can you possibly get yourself geared up as emotionally as you are for an Olympics and a World Championships when you've only got a few weeks to do that?
Well, I think so. I just have to go back and train just the same way I had been before and just focus in on the skating still because there is more to do. But the big difference between the Olympics and Worlds, I think, we are competing against the same people. It's just the media is not as big of attention, and all the other sports won't be there, so it'll just be skating focus. Has
Paul tried to blow you away with all his Harvard knowledge and all the time that you spent together?
No, not too bad.
A little bit?
Oh, God.
No, he's...
Paul, was going to a school like Harvard and learning all the things that you learned at the level that you learned it, did it help you or hurt you? Did you become too smart for your own good?
Well, I think it hurt me at some point. Obviously, the time that you devote to school and to skating, I don't regret doing it, but it's, I just think that focusing on the one thing this year was very, very helpful. But I think that what wound up winning it for me this year was the mental aspect. So who's to say? I think that as I trained my mind in school, I think I learned to train it in skating, and it was a very, very powerful tool at the Olympics.
I'm sure you've heard it now, and even watching Viktor Petrenko of Ukraine slip and make a mistake to the magnitude that he did, that this was an Olympics full of slips, and it was a matter of who didn't have the bigger mistake of the rest. Why was that? Any theories? I mean...
I think the Olympic Games is a competition that has the utmost in pressure, but it also has the utmost in excuses that you can sort of make for yourself, and when you allow yourself to get into a situation where you can make excuses, then you're prone to making more mistakes. I think also, you know, a lot of the skaters were there for a long time and, you know, tended to get out of shape, and Viktor has had a long line of having bad stamina in his long program.
Nancy, when you skated off the ice, I think you looked to the coaches that were sitting next to you and said, why? Is that what you said? Do you remember? I mean, you seemed to be so emotionally pent up, I wasn't sure which way you were going to go, and you seemed to walk off and...
No, I was telling them I was sorry, because they've worked just as hard as me for that moment, and it just didn't quite happen that day. And I mean, I came home with the bronze medal, which is wonderful, but I didn't give my best performance, and so it was happy but a little disappointing at the same time.
You seem to be a pretty shy person, are you?
Sometimes.
How then do you summon everything that's necessary to go out and sort of let it all hang out in front of as many people as you did?
I enjoy performing a lot. It's fun. It's neat to have everyone focusing on you and something.
Paul's smiling over here. Paul,
You're on the dance floor.
Well, tell me, what is it like?
Well, one time I saw her do an Irish jig.
There's potential for a performance there.
Oh, yeah.
In an Irish pub.
Yeah.
Was it good?
On the Cape.
Nance, was it good?
I hope so.
It was great.
I hope I wasn't.
Everybody was clapping and, you know, getting into
fun.
it.
When you look into that competition, and you know Midori falls in a much less elegant way. I mean, she went right down on her keister, and yet the way the judging works, it's sometimes difficult if you're sitting at home to say, wait a minute, why? Do you guys still deal with that, or has that been in your heads for so many years that you've been competing that it's just out of your hands and not a factor?
Well, I think that the judging, the people that are doing the judging, go out there. They are experts, and we allow them to do that. And we've bought into the whole system, and I think that the people at home tend to not understand the falls and the mistakes. But actually, if you make a mistake like a fall, it can be only 1/10 to 2/10 deduction. And so, you know, somebody like Midori Ito can fall on a triple axel, but since she put in the second triple axel, she may have even higher technical merit scores than somebody who skated a faultless program. It's just the way the judging works.
Yeah. We're talking to Nancy Kerrigan and Paul Wylie, 2 medalists for the United States at the Olympic Games. We'll be back on Coors Sports Forum in just a moment. Continuing now with Paul Wylie and Nancy Kerrigan of the United States Olympic team. They both were able to win medals. For Nancy, it was a bronze, and for Paul, it was a silver. The word that is so often brought up in you know, amateur sports like the Olympics are so sacrifice, and I know for you guys it must be enormous for the hours that goes into fine-tuning a performance. Nancy, you were, what, 6 when you started skating?
Yes.
Do you remember then putting on skates and deciding, you know, this is something that I really like?
No, not at all, actually. I just went for recreation, you know, 1 hour a week, and the teacher I had thought I had potential.
Who pushed you, yourself or your parents?
Well,
or?
they just kind of said, okay, well, why don't you try, you know, a more exclusive lesson instead of 10 kids, 3, and then no one pushed me. My parents, in fact, would be like, if you don't want to get up, okay, don't go skating, you know, quit, that's fine. But it's just me because I enjoy it. And
you know, most of the Americans who watched your performance, you know, were hit by the appearance of your mother with the monitor and her inability to see at the side of the rink. How have you communicated with her over the years as to what you look like on the ice? Does she ask you to interpret what you're doing so that she can understand a little bit more what's happening?
well, when I get a routine or something, I kind of come home, I go home and I will show her on the floor what I'm trying to do and the moves I do and the footwork and all that. So, and she'll just watch the monitor or like a television video and watch real close.
She's able to see enough of it to get a feel for what it was like?
Yeah, it's not like if I was watching it or you were watching it, but she gets the idea of what I'm doing.
How much more special was it to have her seated right there?
It's It's great because it didn't happen. People didn't start letting her sit in a special area to watch the monitors till maybe 2 years ago. And before that, she would never know what it looked like for me skating till we got home about 2 weeks later with, you know, the videotape when it finally arrives home. And so it's really special.
Paul, how about you growing up, sacrifices that you made? How old were you when you started?
I was actually 3.5 when I started.
3.5?
Yeah.
Making rational decisions at an
Right,
early age.
absolutely, right. So I can't really remember life without skating, but my parents have driven me to the rink forever, you know, and there were pretty long drives. We used to go to Colorado in the summer because there was no skating in Texas, which is where I was born, and they, you know, not only did they drive me to the figure skating, but they also drove me to the hockey practices when I was on the hockey team, and, you know, they were just really supportive and never really pushy about skating. They always wanted me to be a good person and enjoy myself doing it. And when things got a little bit too hot or people got a little bit too serious about it, they said, you know, you're just doing this for fun. Don't worry about what the coach says. And I think that was the right attitude, and I was glad that they had it.
For all the times that you did just miss, what were the kinds of things that were said to you that still kept it all okay, that allowed you to get up the next day and still feel that it was all possible?
Well, I think my coaches were so reassuring every time. They said, you know, you just have to have faith. You know, it can maybe happen again. You know, you can maybe go to the Olympics. Even, especially this year, you know, after the national championships, my coach said, don't limit the Lord. You know, don't limit what you think, you know, you can do, because it can maybe happen for you there. You know, you can maybe win. You know, I was like, yeah, right. And I came very close to doing that. So I think, you know, for my coaches to be so faithful and so, well, they were patient and persistent and all that stuff, too. All the right things that they said to me. And over the years, they've spent 7 years with me dealing like that with me, you know, saying, let's just concentrate on what you can do, and, you know, maybe this time it'll happen.
You know, so many of the Winter Olympic sports, at least from an American standpoint, are in the spotlight for, you know, 2 weeks every 4 years, and you guys get a fair share of exposure, pretty much an ongoing situation. Does that help when a big event like this comes around, or not?
Oh, I think so. I think that they know, you know, the names of the people who are the top 3 in the country, and the sports writers tend to make a lot fewer mistakes about your program, although they make a lot of mistakes anyway. But figure skating seems to be one of the more common winter sports out there. You don't hear a lot about.
Do you think it's one of the sports that people like to watch the most, yet really know the least about?
Well, I think they're learning a lot about it.
I mean,
they love to watch it, but I think that people are learning so much about it that the audiences are so educated anymore. I mean, it used to be that you could just go out and do a couple spins and a single or double jump and they'd love it. But now, if you don't do a triple, they know it, and they don't clap as hard for it.
Yeah.
So,
you think people know very little about it, or?
I think they would like to know more, actually. What I've heard from just people that'll come up to me and ask for an autograph or something, that they just wish they understood the reason why marks are what they are and things like that.
When you walked into the opening ceremony, you were in a stadium with, you know, athletes who had been dedicated to their sport for a varying degree of times. I mean, you've got, you know, the Jamaican bobsled team is out there. Do you think all the athletes belong in something like this? Is there a feeling that, hey, I've been doing this for 15 years. These guys are getting the same thing I'm getting, and they just started doing it 6 months ago? What's your feeling about that, Nancy?
I guess they worked, you know, just as hard since when they started, but I don't know. I think it's all like a self-satisfaction thing, and you
don't worry about that.
The personal victories aren't as great if you've only been working, you know, for 3 years to get on the Olympic team, as opposed to us, you know, we've been working for 16, 20 years to get on this team. I think that, you know, it means a heck of a lot more to us, maybe.
Paul Wylie, Nancy Kerrigan, our guests on Sports Forum. When we come back, Paul is going to give us the inner dark secrets of Nancy's life in the Olympic Village. Stay with us. Nice when they're skating together that you'd think that they're a duo, you know, sort of romantically attached, but it's not the case. Paul had a girlfriend watching in Albertville, and Nancy's got a boyfriend. But Paul, I understand that the Heisman was a big move that Nancy put up there.
Nancy gave out several Heisman trophies in the Olympic Village. She was by far the most popular female athlete, and for obvious reasons. But she, I mean, I won't name the.
Oh, give us a couple of names. I mean, just a couple. Just a couple.
Well, let's say that there were speed skaters and ski jumpers involved, and, you know.
Speed skaters?
Yeah.
Like who? Just give me one name.
No. Come on.
Is this all part of the Olympic
terrible.
experience, Nance?
It's part of her Olympic experience.
I don't know.
I mean, was it fun? Was it fun to be sort of in the center of this, you know, storm?
Well, I guess I don't see it as much as he sees it. I don't know. I was just there, and, you know, you'd sit down to dinner and look for anybody with a jacket on that looked like yours and introduce yourself and become
But Nancy,
friends.
every day you received all these, we had those little computers that, you know,
You could
send off
send
the messages.
electronic mail.
It's got bobsled messages and hockey messages and jumping messages. I mean, really.
And none of them were interesting to you that you wanted to return them? Or?
Yeah, to return them and you want to swap pins.
Sounds like you guys had a pretty good time at the Olympics. Did you?
Want to swap pins. That's great.
It was fun.
It was fun.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Now, what is it
some
that
good
you spent
friends.
so much time together? How is it that the two of you never did, you know, wind up with each other? Is there something that you dislike about Paul's personality?
Oh, yeah.
geez.
No.
Where do we start?
Well, when I first met him, I really didn't like him. He was a little bit arrogant.
Mm-hmm.
This was a long time
It
ago.
was a
Let
long
her
time
finish,
ago.
Paul.
God.
But now, we've become very good friends, and I don't know,
It would just complicate
it's more
things?
like a brother-sister type thing.
She has
you know?
a long-standing
And-
relationship with this guy in Boston, so, and I have a long-standing relationship with my girlfriend, so we just went our
never
separate
happened.
ways.
No.
Well, so you have some interesting memories of the Olympics, right? Paul, after this, now, what lies ahead for you? You want to go on to school again?
Well, eventually, but I'm going to concentrate on a professional career right now, and shows, and competitions, and endorsements, hopefully, and...
How do you go about planning something like that? I mean, I don't need to know your agent's name and all,
Right,
you know,
well,
but I mean, what
you
kind
get
of
an
things do you want to
agent,
get out of it?
and then you know, they talk to people for you, and yeah, I mean, I've had a lot of my own ideas and, you know, things that I'd like them to pursue for me. And also, you know, there are established things that you do. You go with the skating show, and you go with the big skating competitions, and you try to capitalize on what has happened and on a skating career. And mostly, though, you try to have fun, and because that's what, you know, all these years of hard work should translate into a lot of fun.
What kind of law do you want to go into?
Probably sports and entertainment law, you know.
So you could negotiate your own deals in the future.
But isn't it what they say that if you have yourself as a lawyer, you have a fool for an attorney, something like that? It's true.
Now, Nancy, I know the World Championships are coming up, but like right after that, is this something that you would want to join up with Paul and sort of continue with this magic that people felt so easily between the two of you?
Well, we will be touring, I think, around 40 cities after the World Championships throughout the United States. So we'll meet up and just be on the road for a while.
You haven't had enough of each other?
No.
Nope.
Paul, what's the thing that as you go around that you're going to be able to do differently that you aren't able to do in the restricted environment of the Olympics?
Well, the skating restrictions on programs don't exist in professional competition. I mean, it's basically the length of music is all they restrict you to. You can do backflips, and you can skate to words, music with words in it. You can get all, you know, you can win prize money, and it's just there are no limitations on like your program. You have no specifics in terms of how many jumps or spins or sequences of footwork that you have to do, and the elements in the original program and stuff like that are so different and much more free.
Well, our final thoughts with Nancy Kerrigan and Paul Wylie, silver and bronze medalists, respectively. Is that right? No, it's the other way around. Anyway, when we come back on Coors Sports Forum, stay with us. Your sport's so beautiful on the ice, and yet the inner workings behind the scenes is an awful lot of politicking, as there is with any other sport. What are the things about figure skating that bother you?
That bother me. It's probably, there's not too much. Just that we don't have much control on what things are said about our, I don't know, the restrictions and the routines that we have. And
I mean, like the compulsories were gone this time around. Is that something that you would have liked, or is that good that they're gone?
It's great that they're gone. I think the compulsories really eliminated a lot of people early, and it allows the judges it allowed the judges a time when they were not under any scrutiny from the audience to throw out whatever marks they wanted for their favorites.
I'd just like to get some final emotions. Paul, you said that it was the greatest day of your life and that you'll always have Albertville, and all your friends, Brian Orser and
Boitano.
Bowman and Boitano, they all said they were really happy that you finally had your chance. When you when you put it all in the same package for your own personal thoughts, what kind of things do you say?
Well, I think, it's that day in Albertville and my graduation from Harvard and the day I made the first Olympic team in Denver are the three, most happy days of my life. And I'm so happy mostly, not just with the silver medal, but just that I went out there and, skated my best under the biggest pressure of my life, and that I was able to come through for myself at sort of the apex of my amateur career, and now, looking forward to a very successful professional career almost because of that.
Now, Nancy, on one of your biggest nights, you said you didn't skate your best. What does that do to your future plan?
Well, it probably just extends the amateur career a little bit. And, well, Paul, when he skated, I felt like I had won before I even started competing. So that was exciting for me to see him do well. But for me, I was a little disappointed, so I think I'll go on and just see what happens.
I mean, if you go to the World Championships and you step on the ice and you somehow are able to put it all together and you have whatever it is that defines the perfect night, would that maybe be the time to say that's the end?
It's hard to say now. I don't know.
By winning silver.